Good morning from Israel. It's the day of the second semi-final of the Eurovision Song Contest 2019. And I will talk about that show with Steef van Gorkum, chief editor of ESCDaily. We saw the jury show last night, of course. And it was, when we compare it to the first semi-final, very good.
It was a very, very high level. People can see it if they look through our reports from last night, because if you look at the star ratings from that show compared to the other show, you needed more stars to be in the top 10, simple as that. And we gave 2 entries 5 stars because I think both Sweden and Netherlands have everything you need to convince juries.
Out of those two, who do you think won the jury vote then?
It's a very difficult one to call. I'm leaning towards Sweden, but the Netherlands gave a very good performance last night. The thing is that they both have something for the juries. Sweden is like a prototype jury entry, basically, and he did everything well, so he ticks all the boxes, hits all the green flags, basically. And then the Netherlands has a song that in itself is not as much for juries as some may think, but because it's such a high level of difficulty to sing it, and then Duncan did it almost perfectly last night, that could get him a lot of bonus points.
Sergei Lazarev, also a contender, of course, in this semi-final, perhaps on Saturday as well. We will get to that later when we talk about the draw for the final, which we will have after all the qualifiers are known. Your thoughts about Lazarev?
Well, that's interesting, because he's the biggest star in this competition. He's perhaps the biggest star Eurovision's seen in the last couple of years, and that includes Madonna. No, I'm joking, but he's huge in large parts of Europe, not just in Russia, but also in surrounding countries, and he's such an amazing professional. And yet even he was nervous last night. A lot of people were nervous, and a lot of people had questionable starts to their performance, and even he had that. Of course, he's a professional, so he recovered, he did well, and all in all, he still received a lot of jury points last night. I still think that this entry from him is much more jury-friendly than the one he had in 2016, so we don't even have to talk about qualification, but I don't think he won the jury vote last night, and I think Russia is aiming for a really high jury score, so on Friday he will need to be better.
Yesterday we talked about how many ethnic entries did not make the cut in the first semi-final. There are a few, one could say, ethnic songs in the second semi-final as well. Will they also suffer the same fate?
That for me was the biggest reason to leave Albania out of my list of 10 qualifiers, the list that I put on ESCDaily.com. By the way, if you have a list of qualifiers, if you want to predict the results of tonight and try to win a few Eurovision CDs, then please join us and send us your top 10 on ESCDaily.com. I put my top 10 up there and I left Albania out of it because of this reason. I feel like Eurovision this year is moving in a more Western direction musically, so that's why I think Albania will suffer. Question mark for me is Norway, because that song has, on the one hand, it's a more traditional Eurodance, Schlager, Scandinavian kind of thing, but it also has ethnic influences with the yoik rapping kind of thing. So I think they will not qualify as easily as some people think.
So tonight we will finally get the results of this show as well, and then the production team of the EBU and broadcaster KAN in Israel, they have to make their minds up about the running order for the grand final, and that could be something that is in the end, when it's such a close field, it could be decisive.
Yes, and it is a close field this year, or it could be, at least in my opinion. And their job is not going to be easy, because you have a lot of big favorites coming up on tonight's semi-final. We discussed the 3 big ones, Russia, Sweden and Netherlands. But there's also Azerbaijan in there, Switzerland, some other countries, Malta, who are doing good with the bookmakers. That's already 6 entries, and there's only 3 spots left in the second half of the show. Not all of those countries are going to have slots in the second part of the show. We already know that. So the draw after the show tonight is very important. Who gets second half, who gets first half? And then what are EBU and KAN going to do? How are they going to make sure that if Netherlands, Russia and Sweden, maybe all 3 of them gets first half, which is possible, how are they going to make sure that all 3 of them still get a somewhat good slot to still have a chance for victory?
Who could benefit the most, let's say, if they are all in the first half? And who would benefit the most?
You mean from the countries that are all
Yes.
in the second half? I mean, you gotta mention Australia because the momentum is there. We're still rising with the bookmakers. ESCDaily is of course following that story, being an Australian website, and there's momentum going for it. And Australia has always struggled in the televote. This year they've gone for a really, really clever staging concept, which could get them a lot of televotes, and it's still jury friendly as well. So who knows, if they are the only favorite in the second half, they might benefit.
Also, a possibility that crossed my mind was that when we look back at the draws of Mansell Meleuf, or perhaps a better example, even Salvador Sobral, who was in the first half, and still they got a major victory just because they would have won from any spot. Is it possible Duncan Laurence could do that because he's rising and rising and rising with the bookmakers?
And not just with the bookmakers, his performances are getting better too. He gave his best performance of the entire week last night. So yes, if he's this good 3 more times on the shows when it matters, or maybe even getting a little bit better still, then he could be he could be such a great winner that it doesn't matter where he starts from. Of course, you gotta factor in that Mons and Salvador, they received spots in the first half of the show, but towards the middle, of course, they were helped a little bit by EBU and KAN still. But I mean, you gotta think that the same would happen for the Netherlands if they get a spot if they draw the first half. You gotta think that EBU and KAN will still help them get 11, 12, or 13 or something like that, and definitely the Netherlands can win from that spot.
We will see how it goes first tonight. Let's see if all the qualifiers that we predict also will qualify for real, because it didn't happen with Hungary, and literally everybody in the polls and the predictions, also on our website, literally everybody had Hungary in there. Could there be such a surprise again or not to close it off?
I'm not sure. I just don't see.
Like if Malta or Switzerland or Azerbaijan suddenly doesn't make it, that would be the comparison.
Yes, that's the ones that I would be thinking about as well. But I mean, Azerbaijan will get a lot of televotes. I can't see them actually not qualifying. Switzerland is popular with both, I think, juries and televotes. Malta, if they gave a really horrible performance compared to the ones they gave in the first week, maybe, but I don't see it happening. There is the standards are so much higher in this semifinal that I think the ones that are actually really good stand out more than the ones that we thought were really good in the first semifinal. So the differences will also be bigger, and I don't see that big of a surprise in this semifinal.
That's it. We're going to wrap it up. Nothing left for me to say then. Enjoy the show tonight and stay tuned with us afterwards.